this will be the second installment of story time. And this time we got a creepy one, real creepy. So I was probably about 12, and I don't think I'd ever hunted by myself. And my dad, he was like, "You want to go down there and hunt the blue bucket by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know." And blue bucket's like this old tree stand. He would let us go to it when he was young because it's only like 10 foot off the ground. Pretty safe, so if you fall out of it, you're probably not going to die, at least. And I go down there, and you're down at the bottom. There's a creek right behind you and a hillside. And out in front of you, there's like a hillside this way, a little opening, and a cedar thicket. I settled in, and I was already dreading the dark. I didn't want to walk out in the dark, especially, because I'm a 12-year-old that was kind of scared. I go down there, I'm settled in, I'm looking. I got a 30-06 Remington 7400 with a Bushnell banner on it. Good gun, pretty good scope, like a 3x9 or something like that. And I'm looking up on that hillside. Got my head on a swivel, I'll look this way and I'll rotate back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I rotate my head to the right side. This whole story is an emotional roller coaster. But I look to the right side of that big opening, and I just see this is the biggest buck I've ever seen. Still, to this day, I've never seen one that was quite as big as this dude was. And I look to the right, and he's got his antlers stuck out of the cedar thicket, and he's like looking down kind of my direction, but I'm more over here. It's about 100 yards. And I wasn't very good at hunting at the time. I didn't know when I could move, when I shouldn't, how fast, how slow. So I start like grabbing my gun and getting my knees up to where I can rest my gun on my knees, because I was real paranoid about making a bad shot back then. So I get the gun up on my knees. As soon as I find that dude in the scope, he goes like this. He goes and turns around, spits right back into that cedar thicket. Never seen him again. A little bit later, it's getting closer to dark, still not there yet. Forkhorn walks out, and he's standing in that same opening, same general area. And I like to get practice, when I was a kid, so I'd get my gun up and I would just hold it on him. I wouldn't turn the safety off, put my finger on the trigger or nothing unless I wanted to kill it. But I would just, I'd hold the crosshairs on the deer, and I'd like look at its face, through the scope, stuff like that, see how long I could hold it on its heart and whatnot. He eventually moseys on out of there. And this was, like I said, back a long time ago, so we didn't have smartphones. The cell service was even more garbage than it is now. Dad sent me with this old flip phone. It was like I want to say a Motorola flip phone. About this tall, about that wide, Took pictures and stuff. I can't remember if this was for sure the same time or not. The other stuff is for sure, but this happened as well. There was a dead poplar tree about 20 yards from the stand, and it was about softball size around, and it was about 20 foot tall. And I see this groundhog, for sure, 100% a groundhog, down below me milling around in the weeds. And a couple minutes later, I was like, "Oh, that's cool, it's a groundhog, I go back to hunting, and I hear something like some bark sound, And I look over towards that dead tree, and I kid you not, that groundhog was sitting at the very top of that thing. He'd climbed all the way up and was sitting up there on top of that tree like this, just like looking around. I don't even know why he'd done it. And then he starts climbing back down, and the dude couldn't climb down that tree for nothing. He was like bear hugging it and scooting his belly all the way down to the bottom. I took a picture with that flip phone through my gun scope. I pointed the scope straight at that tree and got the camera in that scope and took a picture. And God knows where that phone's at now. It's probably in the landfill. But that picture, you could see the tree, and you could just see like a dark bump on top of it. It was pretty wild. So then it starts getting dark on. No service. We're up there with several cousins and uncles and whatnot. It starts getting dark. And I was this close to climbing down. I was about to stand up and go down the tree stand and walk out of there, because I didn't have a flashlight, so I couldn't necessarily leave in pitch black dark, because I don't know, wouldn't have been able to walk out of there very easy. So I decided to leave about 10 minutes before maybe legal shooting light or something. It was dusky and dingy enough to go, especially down in that holler. No more than I decided to get up and walk out of there. Straight behind me on that hillside, I hear, wow. You sound like a demon. And sure enough, me as a kid, I was like, what are you doing? Go on. Go. Go. They don't want to see you. They probably don't want to see me. That thing lets out that blood-curdling scream, and I'm 90% sure now that it was just a bobcat. But back then, you know, you're like, dadgum chupacabra is going to eat me right here. This is it. And that thing's letting out that blood-curdling scream. My hair just stood up all over my body, and I got chills, and I was like, oh, I got to walk out of here with that demon right behind me. I get the phone out, and I'm like, come on, please, God, just this once, let me have service down in this hole. And you can look at like the little bars, and it just says like NA, no service at all. I tried sending like 20 texts. As soon as you'd click send, it would just say like, try again, you know? And I sat there, and it's getting darker and darker, and I'm like, it's about time to make a decision. I'm just gonna have to hump down this tree and fly up that hillside and hope that thing don't eat my butt. And I was like, sure enough, the first time I ever go hunting by myself without Dad, the dadburn chupacabra, Caleb devil monster back behind me is gonna eat me, or shows up at least. Time passes, it's pitch black dark, that thing's still back there like growling and making all kinds of weird sounds. And lo and behold, thank God, my Uncle Doug, God bless his soul, was driving a white Toyota Tacoma, comes blasting over the hill through the field, straight down to me, I'm like 20 yards away. And I was just like, thank you. So I get my gun, and it was black dark, and you know, he was right in front of me, but still I get down that thing and I sprinted over to that truck, got in, I was like, dude, there's something on that hillside. It's growling at me. I don't know what it was. Never did find out for sure, but if I had to imagine, just a bobcat. Once again, thank you, sweet children, for tuning in to story time. I appreciate it. And if you liked it, let me know. I'll do more. I still got a pile of them in the bank, and I make them every time I go out hunting. Yep, that's it. Thank you. Let's go back to the house. Oh, sat there so long I've got stiff.